Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Withholder.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Tanner, I appreciate everything you've done so far. Just because we're getting this grant money to build this project, what happens then? I've seen absolutely nothing about administration. Who is going to run it? It's going to be Parks and Rec? I didn't see a business plan. I don't know if it's going to be a daily fee charge, or it's going to be a monthly fee, or a summer fee. We've got to figure out a way for this thing to pay for itself. It's going to cost us $25,000 or $30,000 a year. And if it doesn't pay for itself, where's the money coming from? The general fund? I mean, there's got to be a business plan drawn for this project, because it's just fiscally irresponsible as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Councilman Green.
Bill, it looks like we've got $712,000, it looks like, from the CDBG, those 4 years worth of funds to build up. So if we accept this bid, we're going to have to be going into some other source. I think we have the Park Repair and Improvement Fund by more than $200,000, and then as the councilman's pointed out, we'll have that annual maintenance cost on top of that. That seems to be a substantial burden on our general fund at a time when we're trying to manage costs most effectively. Is there any other source? Is there any other additional CDBG funds, or do we have to use those or lose them?
The funding for this program, or for this project, is through CDBG grant, as I had indicated, at $712,000. We have another allocation of CDBG grant money that will be coming in probably around July. It came in last year, July 23rd. Those funds are the minimum number I give you was $170,000. If it's consistent with last year's, it'd be $192,000. So with that $192,000, what I'm projecting is with that CDBG grant funding, we would have to supplement that somewhere around $70,000 to $80,000 out of the Tax Parks Credit Fund, which those funds are eligible for this project. Now, that fund currently is not a general fund account. That is a fund that is funded by impact fees on new residential homes, and as that ordinance reads, some of that money, or most of that money, should be spent in neighborhood areas on park improvements or new parks. So the funding is there and available. That would put us at August 1st of next year. We would have used our entire allocation of CDBG grant money and supplemented it with a small amount from the Tax Parks Fund. That fund currently, as I looked at it yesterday, has $879,000 in it. It's already met I believe it's at 70% its revenue this year on housing. And don't hold me to those numbers, because that's just something I'm glanced at. I believe the funding is available, and I think it's available. With maintenance costs, those maintenance costs would have to be absorbed into the rec center's pool maintenance. The lifeguards, obviously, they would have to increase that. I believe that those funds are available. As I reviewed those funds for the past 2 years, there has been a considerable amount of money in those funds that weren't utilized. So that would be something that I think could be managed. I think the operation maintenance costs could be absorbed into the funds. The funds in the last 2 years, as I look back, were under budget. Under budget.
So we'd use the 2015 next grant, and that would get us almost to the big cost. Are we exposed to change orders during that, after that process starts? Have we had experience with Trade West in the past?
We have. I've done several jobs with Trade West. Change orders are always a reality of a project. I believe this project's been how do I say it? It's been reviewed twice now. 2 different people have reviewed it, or 2 different contractors. The plans and specs, all of the questions were answered in the first bid. The second bid, they were all answered. I don't anticipate a lot of change orders, but I cannot guarantee that, what I'm asking for approval for, any change order would obviously have to come back through the council, because I'm not leaving myself any leeway for much in change orders.
Again, so their bid is, looks like about 10% more than they bid, their 844 they did last time. 86,000 increase, about a 10% increase in about a year's time. And we don't know if they've changed. Part of that is it's not a scope change. It's not a change in our design, it's the same design.
Not entirely. There is some change in scope, and that was what I presented in the construction management contract that we looked at in December, is I wanted that storm drain removed from underneath the splash pad. The retaining wall on the south side should be installed. I'm not recommending alternates. I'm recommending that we build it the way we designed it. I believe that the runnels are important for the kids, to not just have a play area, but a water feature area. It is a lot of money, but it'd be a spectacular project for that, for the kids in that area.
I'm sorry, one final question, Bill. Is that pad, is it a concrete pad? I've seen some of the splash pads are rubberized for safety purposes.
It is I can't answer that. It's concrete in the bid. I mean, all the bid documents I've looked at, it's concrete.
Okay.
Colored concrete.
Any further questions for Mr. Tanner? For those, Councilman Braxton, do you have a question?
I do. With respect to the CDBG grant in itself, just for my clarification, I guess, is if we don't use this available $712,000, do we lose it? If not, how long before we do lose it? What alternatives might there, I mean, what other things can we use it for? I don't know if that's your...
And I can answer that. The CDBG grant funding was, each funding cycle is a 5-year cycle. And through that cycle, what we do is we present a plan to them of what we're going to use that funding for. And in 2000, I'm not even sure, there was a priority list. In 2010, that was brought back to council because the priority number 1 was way more expensive and wasn't what the people in charge at that time thought was appropriate. So they reevaluated and moved, I think, the senior center, improvements in the back, bocce courts and some shade structures. They moved that to number 1 priority and left the splash pad as number 2 priority. That priority list was approved in 2010 and submitted to CDBG grant funding, and that was approved through them. Now, as we move forward through the years, we've had allocations come in over that period of time to bring our allocation right now up to $712,000. CDBG grant funding is, and Aaron may have to help me on this a little bit, but CDBG grant funding has to be spent in a demographic area under a section, and that section is always ran from the freeway and inside town wash and Avawash. That is the area dependent on the income, the housing income, all of the criteria that CDBG grant is using to have us utilize those funds. So there's a kind of a distinct area where it has to be used. The senior center obviously was improved, expanded, and then the bocce court, so we spent quite a bit of that CDBG grant money over the years at the senior center. And before that time, I know $430,000 was utilized to build the Woodbury Park. That's a detention area south of the elementary school. We put restrooms, lights, soccer fields. That was CDBG